I just need to let y'all in, let y'all see the mess behind the machine. Yeah, guys, I'm not perfect. In fact, I'm barely functional. Hello, lovers, and welcome back to another episode of Starring Cupid, starring me. It's your boy, Zamatalex, nothing more, nothing less, from the east, not the west. Are you not embarrassed? Funny that I mention embarrassment. Let me tell you your story, lovers. The way I put together this show is okay, so I record and then I have this what used to be a seamless system of editing that would make sure that everything was fine and done, so I would not have to do all the heavy lifting and stuff. And it was, like I said, a seamless system. Have I not made 2 mistakes in the past 2 weeks alone? You guys probably, either if you didn't notice, thank you. If you did notice, shut the fuck up. I remember I apologized about the first time, and then I literally promised myself, I was like, dude, you're never gonna do this again. You're gonna be more thorough when it comes to editing. And then it happened again. And this time it was very late and I was very tired, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I have to fix this thing now. So yeah, that's me. If it happens for a third time, I might go back to threatening to delete everything and just forgetting about this whole part of my life. But that won't happen because we're not going to do it again. It's not going to happen again. I just need to let y'all in, let y'all see the mess behind the machine. Yeah, guys, I'm not perfect. In fact, I'm barely functional. But that's not the point, because today's a special day. It is a special day at the Starring Cupid Studios, and I'll tell you why. It took us forever, but we're looking at a Kenyan original film to discuss the wonderful Kina and Ziki from Rafiki. I cannot tell you how long I've been looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this as soon as I saw it, which was actually quite recently. Please do not judge me. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, I have to. I really have to talk about this. We rarely get queer films that do so well commercially. I also wanted to support it because they were not being well received in Kenya. I say well not received. I know what I mean. And obviously it's due to the homophobic views of the people in charge. So they didn't even really get the proper chance to be in theaters for that long and kind of reach the local success that they wanted. Unless they did get the local success that they wanted. Who knows? We need to support these kinds of films to let them, when I say them, most of the time, I'm either talking about the audience, I'm talking about the producers and the people that put money into films like this. We need to support these kinds of films to let them know that we want more of these stories. There will be mentions of homophobia in this episode. I can't get around it. I wish I could talk about this couple without mentioning it, but unfortunately, it's kind of not a big part of the movie, but it leads to what happens. So I want to warn everyone beforehand that there is going to be mentions of homophobia and violence. I don't want anyone to come here and feel triggered or feel hurt after listening to me. So just letting y'all know from the jump. Before I give way too much away, here is our lovely couple. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is raining and it's making me so tired. But the show must go on, always. The show continues all the time. Anyway, production. This movie was made in 2018 and was directed by Wanuri Kahai. Um, this was her second feature film. I've never seen her previous work because I'm not gonna say we have bad access to foreign films, but we have maybe minimal access to foreign films, and also it's not really broadcast on like just your regular television. So they basically movies that are outside of South Africa are kind of harder to get your hands on easily. Does that make sense? Yeah, fuck xenophobia. Anyway, so because of that, I haven't seen any of her previous work. According to her IMDb page, she was the creator of a genre called, well, they refer to it as Afro bubblegum. If you haven't seen Rafiki or any of Kahai's work, it can be difficult to understand what that means. When you watch Rafiki, you clearly see it in this way certain shots, the way certain scenes are done, and the way certain scenes are shot. I didn't understand it when I read it, but when I thought back to the movie, I was like, you know what? This makes so much sense. It's really fun. It's very lively. There's a really fun opening credit sequence using that vibe of Afro bubblegum, and it's very unique. I really like it a lot as a person that likes to watch opening credits. That was cool. If this kind of style is present in her other work, then I'm already interested to see it. I would like to see it. She was also part of the writing team, joined by Jenna Katobas. The story was adapted from a short story that was actually written by Monica Arak Dinyeko. I don't know, lovers, if you're new to this podcast, maybe what I've just said means nothing to you. But for me, I mean, don't you just love it when a story about queer women is directed and written by other women? It just feels so refreshing for us. It just take a moment to think about the power that room had. Unless they didn't, and then I'm overestimating it. But it felt good to research this movie and know that what I was consuming was made by women. That's really great. On to our cast. We have Samantha Makasai as Kena Mrawa. I think this was her debut role. There weren't any other things listed in her IMDb page. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, I loved her in this. She has a softness and a silent intensity that I like a lot. Guys, like, there's a lot of moments where we rely on her facial expression to figure out how she's feeling, because I think as a character, Kena never said much. Like, she's just a quiet person. So we just have facial expressions to go by, and she just has good faces. I don't know. Yeah. Then we have our colorful love interest, Sheila Mniuva as Ziki Ogemi. This is her second acting role. I'm going to elaborate on this later in the show, but I just want to start off by saying she played off Samantha's energy a lot. It worked because that's what their characters were doing most of the time. I could feel the contrast in their personalities, but it wasn't contrast that was bad. It was kind of just like contrast in the sense that they match each other. And not just in terms of being in love, they match each other in how they took these roles. That's what I'm trying to say, even though it feels like it makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, Miss Sheila is also quite expressive, liked that about her. When she's happy, it's very like obvious, and we see a lot of her happiness. But when she's sad, I feel it. feel it in my bones. Yeah. Honorable mentions. We have Jimmy Gathu as John, who's Kenny's father, the man that runs this buzzer shop and is also up for the election. When I watched this, guys, maybe it's just me. Maybe here. Okay, when I watched this, I swore I've seen this actor somewhere before, but it has to be a thing that happened here. Like, he looks like an actor we have, maybe on like a soapy or something, but I couldn't think the whole movie. I just kept thinking, there's no way you guys aren't the same gent. But that's not why he's an honorable mention. He's an honorable mention because he's cool. His character surprised me the most in this movie. There was a way I thought that things would unfold, and he acted differently, and also he was just very convincing to me. So shout out to him. Shout out to everyone else they were really, really great, except for the man that was portraying Black stuff. Not because he wasn't doing great. I just really, the character left a sour taste in my mouth. It was just, men, right? Am I right? Onto the plot. If you've never seen this movie, you should definitely do it. You'll be supporting Kenyan films, and that's already a plus on its own. Secondly, it's a good LGBTQ coming of age movie to watch. I saw a bit of criticism that the ending was predictable, and that's a fair thing to criticize. However, I think I've said this before, that I don't mind repeating cliches or like predictable arcs if it means that I get to see it acted out by marginalized groups that would appreciate this representation or need it. We representation on this podcast day and night, all day, every day. So that was great, and I think that's why we should all see it. That's one reason why you should see it. The other reason why you should see it is because it's fucking good. If you watched it and you forgot what happens, here's a summary. Two teenagers go against what their society considers to be a good Kenyan girl. The pair fall for one another and must go up against their community's homophobic views and political pressures from their families. That's essentially what it's about. Again, I'd like to remind you lovers that there's mentions of violence and homophobia. Can't get around it. So sorry. I'm definitely going to spoil the plot on this one, so you better watch it first. The usual, nothing new. Let's jump straight in. These are the coolest girls in Kenya. From the jump, we're given the impression that Gena is a timid person. She's the first person we meet in the film. She gets to show us a normal day in her life, her home life, a bit of her social life with the friends that she has, kind of basically showing us around her neighborhood and the kind of person everyone perceives her to be. And she's reserved, she's shy, but she's also kind of comfortable. That's where we meet her. This is the girl that we know of now. There's an element of discomfort though, because she's clearly trying to be what one would call a moderate lesbian. I say moderate because she knows, whether from experience or maybe just seeing it with her own eyes, that she knows that living in this place means that this is what she has to do. She has to kind of tone it down for them, otherwise she risks upsetting the homophobes. And it feels like she's skating by, and it adds to her shyness, kind of her not trying to stand out or anything. I get that. And then we meet Ziki, and Ziki is almost the polar opposite of Gena. When we meet Ziki, she's dancing in the street, and she has those colorful braids. Immediately, she's quite extroverted. A very different introduction to our other love interest. And I don't want to call this a opposites attract trope, because it's not really that. It's close to it, and it kind of looks like it, but this one's different. Before words are even exchanged, we get a lot of longing looks from Gena. Her what I would call the gone boy moment, which I still for some reason have not found a word for. Her gone boy moment happens very early on in the film, and from then onwards it's just looks and stares and gazes and just looks. She's always just longingly looking at Ziggy. I can't remember who made the first move, but thank goodness for that. Thank the Lord. I thought Gena was going to stare at her every day from a distance for the entire film, and that would have been okay, because sometimes that's how people flirt. That's just what shy people do. And actually, guys, I'm tired of y'all coming for shy people all the time about this. We literally, it's in the name. Sorry, that was irrelevant. Back to the couple at hand. Their chemistry is great. You can see that Gena almost relaxes more around Ziggy. There's a comfort that the comfort that she's missing when she's around other people, she kind of has that when she's with Ziggy. Their connection is great. There's never a dull moment when they're together. It's always love and joy and funny chats and funny jokes. Good times, And then they also have communication. They speak freely and honestly and openly when they are together, and that is all you can really want for a relationship, is just good communication. Guys, if I'm not mistaken, those are the 3 C's that every lover needs. What could possibly be standing in their way? I'll tell you. The star-crossed lovers trope. If you're not sure what star-crossed lovers are, then you haven't been forced to read Romeo and Juliet, which means you're lucky. The meaning is pretty self-explanatory once you mention those two, that couple that popularized it. It's basically that storyline where 2 families have conflict of some kind, and thus the conflict trickles down to affect the offspring and their love lives. In this movie, the conflict comes from them being political rivals. That's not as intense as the decades-long medieval beef they would have, but it's the equivalent of that in this era of time. I wish that they weren't subjected to that trope, because automatically, when you're a queer couple in a homophobic state, you're star-crossed lovers from the jump. Except in that case, it's just the citizens that have beef with who people are attracted to, which is absurd. Truly, I can't think of any other word but that. I could spend hours talking about why homophobia is absurd, but I'm not going to. These are 2 really thick barriers between these young people. They shouldn't have to be dealing with this or worrying about this, and they risk it all anyway. In Romeo and Juliet, it doesn't feel too romantic because everything that led up to the terrible things that happened was avoidable. Side rant, actually. I absolutely love most of Shakespeare's plays. I have favorites. They're really great, some of them. I just truly despise Romeo and Juliet so much. They were so silly, especially Romeo. I hate that play so much. I shit on it all the time. I rant about it every given day. Maybe one day I'll give them an episode though, just so you guys can fully understand why I hate it so much. Who knows? But that's my point. Back to my point. Kina and Ziki, they risk their safety to merely hang out, and I feel like that robs them of so much joy. It can be so difficult to constantly defend your love from ignorant people or like conservative people, and it got especially bad when they were attacked in like secret hiding place within the field in the bushes. Oh, lovers, I wanted to cry. Trauma like that is just horrific and horrible, and they were so young and they didn't do anything wrong. Ugh. Yeah, no one deserves it at all. Not a single person deserves that. Luckily, we get a chance to see the joy that did come from this relationship, though. The pure, unfiltered, awkward at times, lesbian teen love story. And I love that so much about this. So much. I cannot begin to state how important that is. Every week I come on here and I scream about representation. Sometimes it feels like I'm a dragon and I will never stop. So I will be a dragon forever. And for that chat, for like that thing that of always wanting representation, I feel like this particular movie is extremely important. Because we are not only getting the sadness, we are not only getting the pain. It's very present and it's quite a big part of it, but we're getting the love, we're getting the joy, we're getting the visuals of beautiful Black queer love, and that is so important for us. It's so important for this. It's so important for us. This movie didn't get to be in local theaters for, not when I say local theaters, I don't mean our country, I mean in Kenya. It didn't get to be in theaters for a long time because, or the full amount of time that movies are usually in the theater for like really homophobic reasons, but it ended up getting a lot of international recognition, and that is another W for this couple, another W for this film. That shows people a lot. I think that more than representation for us that want to see all of this and want to see themselves in the movies that they watch, conservative states need to see that the arts will call for a change and speak out against these things. Ignorant people need to see that their shit doesn't bang anymore. They need to see that no one's here for their thoughts and their oppression. It's over now. Cut the cameras. Yeah. And then the African LGBTQ plus community. We need this because we need to see that there is joy in our love and not only pain. It's not always pain, it's not always suffering. There is joy and there is light and there is beautifulness in it. Part 3, let's go. There's not a lot to say. I always say this every week, but sometimes there's a lot to say, and some of these days, there's not a lot to say. Likes. I really liked the shots that were very colorful and bright, the references to the Afro bubblegum genre that the director is creating. The sequence in the beginning, like I said, and when they're out partying, when they're at groove, it's visually wonderful and very, it's like whimsical as well. I like it a lot. I liked the music. I have to talk about the music and the shots that they did hand in hand because they worked so well together. I was introduced to a lot of songs in this movie. Yeah, both were really, really great. I liked the costume design. We were told that these are two teenagers, and sometimes when movies say that, they don't represent it in the clothes and they don't represent it fully that well. And here they told us that they were teenagers, and we saw it in their clothes as well. They dressed them as teenagers. It also kind of felt that it felt like, aside from the other teens around them, their friends and stuff, Genda and Ziki's outfits were kind of designed to make them stand out even more. They had really great fits, really cool looks that showed off the kind of person that they are. I really liked the way that they shot the romantic parts and romantic moments. Sometimes a movie will have a same-sex couple, and if you're a queer person, if you watching this, it sometimes feels like this was shot in a way to seduce the audience. Not to say that steamy intimate scenes are wrong; they're great. Carry on, but the way they shoot these ones, it's like they're sexualizing it way too much, and it's also just not, it's not very flattering, especially, and they do it a lot when it comes to queer women loving women couples. It's so weird the way they film that. But this one was significantly better. It was respectful and it was beautiful. It felt like highlighting. It felt like they were highlighting the intimacy, not sexualizing the intimacy. Does that make sense? Yeah, it should. Dislikes. Pacing. I didn't like the pacing. It wasn't horrible, but it did drag from time to time. And I think that was mostly because there was a lot of time that was spent talking to people that I just didn't want to hear from anymore, and going to places and but I mean, it's not bad, it's okay. The climax comes so quickly and then it ends shortly after that. So maybe it's not my favorite paced film, but it's a small note to kind of have against it. I don't think it's a flaw more than I think it's a small thing that annoyed me. I disliked how we never heard anything from, in the film there's one gay man in the community, and Gena kind of sees how her community reacts to that man to kind of gauge if she should be a moderate lesbian or like a full-blown out lesbian. So yeah, we see this man, I think 3 times. There's never even like confirmation that he actually is gay, which is another thing. But people be talking, people be doing the things. Anyway, we see this man maybe 3 times, and at 2 of those times he was being harassed, or we could clearly see that he had experienced some pain or violence. It was quite symbolic, I know, but he would show up, he'd be a visual aid, and then nothing. I just wanted him to say a word at least at like the final part. I didn't like the montages, only because that goes back to kind of my pacing issue. I don't like the montages because it felt like they spent a lot of time on less important things that the montages could have dealt with, you know what I mean? But hey guys, I'm saying a lot, but obviously I'm just a regular fella. I know nothing. I could never know when to begin to do all this stuff. So it's just my little petty little things. It's that time again. We battle every weekend. Yeah, ne? There's no battle this week. This week was tough. I really wanted to find African queer films to talk about that I have watched, at least so that I could have a reference. I try not to use couples of things that I haven't seen, only for reference. And I could barely find participants from things that I've watched. Or if there were things that I've watched, there were things that were just too sad or there's no romance in it to even ship, it was kind of like that. Again, it's not about acts, it's not a lack of interest, it is almost like a lack of access. Instead of a battle, I'm going to make a thread either on Twitter. I'll do it on Twitter and on Tumblr, but I'll make a thread of all the African LGBTQ plus movies or series that I can find. If you, the viewers, the lovers, have any suggestions, this is your time to shine. You can DM us on Twitter with your suggestions and the titles that you want us to add to the thread. It's all about sharing these films for people that need to see them and people that want to see them and support them. So please DM us your suggestions. I will tweet this out. I'll remind people. I will find movies for you all to see. Maybe I'll watch one of your suggestions and I'll make an episode on it. Who knows? Until then, love and light to you all. Sleep with the flowers. Don't bark at the wolves. Bye.